Columbus, Georgia. This is your city council. Mayor, Skip Henderson. City Manager, Isaiah Hughley. Byron Hickey, District 1. Glenn Davis, District 2, Bruce Huff. District 3, Toya Tucker. District 4, Charmaine Crabb. District 5, Gary Allen. District 6, Joanne Kogel. District 7, Walker Garrett. District 8, Judy Thomas. District 9, At-Large Council, Travis Chambers. District 10, At-Large Council, Sandra Davis, Clerk of Council. And City Attorney, Clifton Fay. Columbus, Georgia. This is your city council.
Good morning and welcome to the November 12th City Council meeting. I hope everybody had a chance to hug a veteran yesterday as we celebrated Veterans Day in a number of different ways over the weekend and yesterday. We're going to begin this meeting, however, the way we always begin our meetings, and that's with by reaching out to God and ask for His blessings over these proceedings. And my friend Amelia Rosa is going to come to the podium now and return thanks for us. Amelia, if you would, just hit that button and we'll try to get it turned on. Let's see. There it is.
Yes.
Got it.
Greetings. My name is Chaplain Emilio Rosa, Love in Action Outreach Ministries. Been working for this community for the past 5-6 years. Special greetings to my friend here, Skip Henderson, and all your board members. We appreciate the great work that you do to keep the city moving. And we feel very honored and privileged for the opportunity that was given for us to be here. As we all come together to make this city work and make it a better place for each and every one of us. But none of that can be done if it's not for the guidance, the covering, and the protection of our Almighty. So if you could all bow your heads, let's go before the Lord. Father God, we thank you this morning for this great, wonderful privilege you have given us, first and foremost for allowing us to wake up today, open our eyes and see another day, Father. We thank you, Father God, for even those, Father God, that as we remembered yesterday and honored all those who stood before to protect our nation, and we can have freedom and we can be here today, Father God, working. We ask that you bless our mayor, our city council members, and all of those as we strive to do, Lord God, all that we need to do to have a good place to live, Father God, to live in peace and in harmony, Father God. We ask your blessing, your wisdom, your knowledge, and your understanding upon each and every one as we consider all of these topics, all these subjects that are of concern to each and every citizen here in our community, Father God, that you give us the knowledge to move forward, Father God, and all the projects that come before you, Lord, first and foremost be of your will, that you guide our every step and your leaders as we continue to move forward. Father, I ask that you bless each and every person here today, everyone representative, every community here, dear God, that you bless in a special way, Father. And we place all these things in your hands, believing in you and giving you thanks. In his name we pray. Amen.
Chaplain, thank you, sir. I appreciate all that you do for the community. All right, now, if you would, please stand and join me in the pledge to our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We do have Councilor Tucker with us today. She is joining us virtually. She was called out of town, but she will be present for votes and any kind of comments that are made throughout the meeting. First order of business, we'll entertain a motion and a second to approve the minutes from the October 22nd council meeting and executive session. Are there any edits, anything anybody would like changed? All right, hearing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Are there any opposed? All right, that is good. And Councilor Tucker has voted in the affirmative. All right, we'll move now to the city attorney's agenda. Mr. Fay.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. We'll get right into the business agenda. First item up, we need a vote on the paid maternity, paternity leave policy ordinance.
There's a motion second to approve item 1. Is there any discussion on that motion? All right, hearing none, if you would put it on the screen. And councilors, you can register your votes, please. All right, and Councilor Huff and Davis have voted in the affirmative.
Okay,
So that's approved.
that passes. All right, next item is the Animal Control Advisory Board amendments discussed.
Motion second to approve item 2. Any discussions on that item? All right, if you would put it on the screen, please. Councilors, please vote.
Yours going.
All right, Councilor Thomas and Huff vote in the affirmative. Councilor Davis as well. So that is unanimous.
Okay. All right, Mayor, we got some zoning public hearings. The first one up is 3160 Primrose Road from Plan Unit Development to Residential Office. There's a split recommendation. Planning Advisory Commission recommends approval. Planning Department denial, and Planning Department is here. If we got any questions around the table. So proponent here, 3160.
Councilor Hickey.
Yeah, I was just going to ask and make sure that Mr. Wright came up
Okay.
and shares concerns
Yeah,
with this.
give me your name and address, please, sir, and what y'all plan to do.
Yaron Wright, 4076 Harris Road, Ellerslie, Georgia. We plan on building townhomes on this property. We reduced the number to 160 units to accommodate, make sure that everything in the ordinance is done correctly.
Okay. Any questions? We got Planning Division here. Any questions of them?
Yes, Councilor Thomas.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to hear from the Planning Division why they are
Okay.
recommending denial.
Yes, ma'am. We've had many iterations of this site plan, many different numbers of units included. The 160, I think we just got last week. So we were concerned about the number of units, concerned about Primrose being a narrow local road. Certain parts of it are very curvy and hilly. and as well as congestion at Macon Road. Particularly left turns from Macon onto Primrose.
Councilor Hickey?
Yes, sir. The location that he's making reference to, the ordinance, how many units does the ordinance says that can be on per acre?
I mean, he's within the RO. It's 43 units per acre.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so he's within that number there?
Yes.
And it's my understanding that he amended what he initially had turned in. You say you got that last week, right?
Yes.
Where he reduced it, the number of units that he's gonna put on there.
Yes.
To accommodate more parking and, you know, like I think because of concern at one point, the density, it was too condensed or something.
It was a lot for the area.
Okay. But by reducing it now, what are your thoughts on that?
Originally, it was 125. And it's been higher than 160, and now it's to 160, so I would leave that in the hands of council.
Okay, but the ordinance says that he can have up more than that.
That's right, 43 units per acre.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Okay, this, just a reminder, you can cap the number of units by condition, but Councilor Allen?
I'm sorry. Councilor Allen, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. Wanted to ask about the buffer. I know it shows 20 foot, but it seems like we should look at a little more dense buffer up against the businesses that front Macon Road.
There's not. I think there's an apartment complex next door, a small one, and Park Hill is the other neighbor.
Yeah, well, Park Hill was my main concern.
Okay.
I think the the families that are going in and out of that facility on a daily basis I think they would appreciate a little more buffer there. So I would like to offer, is it Mr. Wright, is that correct? What would you feel comfortable with? I'm thinking maybe at least a 50-foot buffer along Park Hill. I'm sorry, the mortuary there?
Yes, sir, that's fine.
Okay. I'd like to make that a condition, Mr. City Attorney. I'd like to offer that to council to consider adding along the property line of the mortuary there, a 50-foot buffer. So it would go from 20 foot along that property to be 50 foot.
Where the mortuary property line is?
Yes, sir.
Is that 22 parcel B?
50 foot undisturbed natural buffer.
Where would that be on the map? Is that parcel B of 22 and 15?
It looks like maybe 13 and 14, 15. And 22.
Well, 15 is where the main mortuary is. 14 and 13 are parking.
That's where the families park.
We have a motion for a 50-foot undisturbed natural buffer. And we have a second from Councilor Kogel. Is there any other discussion as to the amendment to the ordinance?
Let's be specific on the lot numbers. Do we want all of those 13, 14, 15, and 22?
Yeah, I'm trying to look up, see what they own there. It looks like, according to my app that I have, that the SGI owns the property that the mortuary sits on. They own lots 11, 13, 14, 15, and 22.
Okay.
I'm going to have them to put it on the screen because it's important that Mr. Wright knows specifically what is being voted on.
I agree.
Mr. Mayor, let me kind of, after looking at this and see what's on those properties, it appears we probably could
That's
do a
why I
30-foot
went on
buffer
screen, so
on
you can
lots 11
see.
and 13, and then do 50-foot on around the rest of them.
You say 20 on 11 and 13?
No, 30. 30 on 11 and 13, and then 50 on 14, 20, 14, 15, and 22.
Mr. Wright, is that something that you are comfortable committing to?
Yes, sir.
We're not. Yes, sir, Councilor Hickey.
Ms. Wright, you do realize that this is a huge buffer. And my question, council, what is the minimum buffer that is required to be there?
Well, it's in
Mr.
the
Will,
plan.
can you answer that for me?
Yes, sir, it's
what is-
20 feet undisturbed.
Okay, 20 feet undisturbed, and now we're finna go another 30 feet.
We're going 10 feet on 11 and 13, and then 30 feet more on 14, 15, and 22.
Can we get that up on the screen, please? Okay. Because, Ms. Wright, I just want you to understand, you know, that's a significant, that's a large buffer there that you're agreeing to. So I just want you to be aware of that. But the minimum is 20.
Yeah, give me the numbers one more time that you're proposing, please, sir.
You'd have 50 on lots 14, 15, and 22. And 30 on 11 and 13.
Okay. All right.
It looks like there's options here. There's the 20-foot.
Just, excuse me, just a second, ma'am. I'm gonna make sure we got everybody in order. There you go.
It looks like there's options here. There's a, option 1 is 20 foot with certain amount of canopy trees, understory trees and shrubs, ornamental grass per 100 linear feet. Then there's the option 2, which is 10 feet with certain amount of shrubs, ornament grasses per 1,000 linear feet, 100 linear feet, and a wooden fence or masonry wall. And then there's 3, which is a 30-foot undisturbed natural buffer. So those are our 3 options. Is that how this is reading?
That's correct, but he chose the 20 feet undisturbed.
Option 1, okay, thank you.
There we go.
So, Will, if you will mark exactly where Mayor Pro Tem is talking about, so that, right, see what you agree to.
say, was 11 one of them?
Yeah, 11 and 13 were 30-foot buffers proposed. And then 14, 15, and 22 were proposed to be 50.
Mayor, if I could offer, just, Park Hill's been there quite a while, and you have a lot of traffic going in and out of there. And they deserve the peace and quiet and tranquility that they're used to during the time that they're visiting. And that's my whole reason for offering the buffer, Mr. Johnson, is it Johnson?
Right.
Right, I'm sorry, Mr. Wright. Just to protect the integrity of the business and the families that are going in and out of that location every day. So that's the reason I'm offering the buffer.
And Mr. Wright, I don't want to put words in your mouth, you might want to come to the microphone. It didn't appear that you had any issues in adding a little bit more buffer for those lots.
No, sir.
Okay, and you're comfortable with that?
Yes, sir, we'll make accommodation.
Okay. All right.
I do have a question about the lots 11 and 13. They are for sale. Those corner lots, I think 10, 11, 13.
Well, that's why I reduced the buffer there. I thought that if those are not currently being used and apparently don't plan to be used for the business of the mortuary.
Yes.
So that's why I reduced that number to 30.
Okay. Could we do 20 on that one, since they're not there for sale?
Okay, I'll give you 20 on those.
Thank you.
So the motion to amend is amended by 10 feet on those two lots, dropping them back to the original agreed-upon buffer of 20 feet.
Yes.
Okay, so the only true change to the ordinance, Mr. City Attorney, as I understand it, is 14, 15, and 22 are going to have a 50-foot undisturbed natural buffer.
That's correct.
Does that sound good, Mr. Wright?
Yes.
We had Counselor Hickey up next, I believe.
Okay. So, Mr. Wright, are you sure you understand what's happening right now?
Yes.
Okay. Because I just want to be clear for the record that you understand. Because if you got any questions about this, because, that's more than doubling the buffer there, that it's only required to have 20. But that's more than doubling it. And you say you're willing to accept that, and
It's not doubling it, it's just adding 10.
well, that's what I mean, it's adding. So you understand that?
Yes.
Okay.
Counselor Crabb?
Can you restate the lots too? Is it 22, 15, and 22
14.
and 15? Because 14 doesn't even hit the,
Well, the ones that are in the amendment right now is 14, 15, and 22 to
well,
increase to
14
50
doesn't
foot.
even hit the property.
I'm just telling you what was in the motion.
I'd like to remove 14.
14 is the parking lot.
Right, but it doesn't even hit his property that he's rezoning. There's a little panhandle on 15, so 14 doesn't even hit his property, his parcel that he's rezoning. See the panhandle on 15 that comes out?
Then it wouldn't be affected, would it?
Well, then why add it?
Why not?
Because it doesn't touch his property and it doesn't,
Right.
there's not a border to,
The corner
14 does
to-
not border that property.
Then it wouldn't require a 50-foot buffer.
Are
can't
you
put-
saying 50 foot now?
That's what it was.
It's been 50
It's been 50.
for those three lots.
Well, 15, the 50-foot buffer on number 15 should cover it. I see what she's saying, 14 doesn't touch the development line, except at one corner. So if you do 15 and 22 with 50 feet, that should get it.
Okay,
And-
we'll amend it 15 to 22.
Thank you. And then also on Lot 15, if you are at that place of business, you'll see that along that back is garages. It's not the citizens coming for a funeral or visitation or anything like that.
think if you-
They
if you'll-
they never go back in that area except to park in between. There's already a buffer of a garage behind there.
I think if you slide this to the next slide where that gives you the layout of the property, you'll see that that garage area is only part of that back line. There's a lot of parking back there. That's where the families go in and out to get into the hearse, transportation over to the gravesite.
Can it be for, I see it, there's a buffer behind the garage.
All right. Well, let's get this on the floor. We have a motion, and it's been seconded, to increase to 50 feet on 2 lots only, 15 and 22. And is there any more discussion pertinent to those 2 lots? All right, hearing none. All those in favor of the amendment, please say aye.
Aye.
Are those opposed?
Aye. Councilor Tucker is voting in opposition.
Okay, so all those present, if you are voting in favor of the amendment, please raise your right hand.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
And Counselor Tucker is against. Any other is opposed?
2, and then as you stated, 3.
Okay. All right, so that is approved. And just for the folks that are watching at home, this, on zoning issues, it's always a little bit like putting a puzzle together, because you want to do right by the individual who's investing in that property, but you also want to make sure that the people who already live there, or businesses that are already there, are impacted as little as possible. So council's doing their due diligence and doing a good job of trying to make sure that everybody's aware of what changes could take place, and it gives the petitioner an opportunity to address council. All right?
And in the amendment, to be clear, we're going to say 50-foot undisturbed natural buffer for lots 15 and 22, and a 20-foot undisturbed natural buffer for lots 11 and 13.
Right.
We're going to put all of that in the amendment.
That's fine. The only amendment, I thought they already selected a 20-foot natural buffer, because they have to select one, right?
That just makes them have to do option 1.
Right. I mean, that would make it
Okay.
a condition of the rezoning. Any other issues?
Mr. Mayor.
Well, that's my fault.
That's okay. Thank you,
Mr.
sir.
Hickey.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. Can I get a recent list of all the properties with the 50 feet buffer? If not during this council meeting, before the next council meeting.
Oh, so all properties that have been rezoned?
Yeah,
that-
rezoned with the 50-foot buffer. I like to have that.
We can see what we can find.
Yes. If you-
I'm sure there have been some, but there have been during the last year.
I don't know about the last year, but there's some.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, this is a public hearing. Anybody in the audience want to be heard on this item? Primrose Lane, Primrose Road. Don't see any hands, Mayor, so we'll bring it back as amended in next week at the meeting that you may change the time on. It'll be a regular meeting next week. And Mr. Johnson, just tell him that may be a 4:30 meeting next week. Council's going to vote on that. All right, we ready?
Okay.
Next item.
Next item, yes,
Okay,
sir.
next zoning item is 4012 Buena Vista Road, going from neighborhood commercial to general commercial. It's recommended for approval. Is the applicant here? All right. Give me your name and address for the record, please.
Yep, good morning. My name is Kyra Cottle. The address is 8816 Westwind Drive, Midland, Georgia. And the parcel or zoning is 4012 Buena Vista Road.
And then what are your plans? What are y'all preparing to do to the property?
So 4012 is currently zoned as neighborhood commercial. All adjacent parcels are zoned as general commercial. We are requesting to rezone into general commercial to be consistent with the adjacent parcels. Currently, it's still used as automobile use.
Okay.
Currently, it's being used for automobile, is that what you said?
That's correct.
Okay, what is your plans for it?
We're trying to just trying to redevelop the entire area. So currently, it's still going to be used as like an auto glass repair shop that's being proposed, but just want to be consistent with the adjacent parcels, so we'll be able to redevelop in the future.
So I understand what you're saying, but what are your plans for the property?
We have a couple plans in mind right now. So we're trying to see if we can fit a gas station and a car wash in the future. But this is not, how to say, it's not it's still in the planning stage.
Okay, you're still in discussions about the use of the property?
That's correct.
Okay, are there other convenience stores, gas stations adjacent to this property?
Not what I'm aware of. It's not. Adjacent to this property, it is a pawn shop. Yep.
Okay.
This proposed site is right by or right on the diverging diamond. So this is one we would support to eliminate left turns disrupting anything there. It's, I don't know, almost 1,975 feet from the one at Steam Mill and Buena Vista. But they're already in the process now, so if the new ordinance is approved, it won't affect their development.
Won't affect this one?
No.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Johnson.
Okay, any other questions around the table? All right, anybody in the audience want to be heard? This is the Buena Vista Road 4012 Buena Vista petition. I don't see any other hands, Mayor. So we'll bring this back next week, and it may be a 4:30 meeting. Thank you. All right. Next item is zoning at 411 21st Street, going from general commercial to residential multifamily. It's recommended approval. Is the applicant here? Give me your name and address, please, sir.
I'm Robert Montgomery, 165 Wesleyan View, 31210.
Okay, on the staff report, it says proposed residential multifamily. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Any questions around the table?
No, sir.
Okay. Anybody in the audience want to be heard on this petition? 411 21st Street. Okay, no hands. We'll bring this back in 1 week for a vote. It may be a 4:30 meeting. Okay. Next is the text amendment to the UDO, Unified Development Ordinance. So it would add two additional provisions pertaining to convenience stores with gas sales, distance restrictions, et cetera. Mr. Johnson, you want to make a couple of comments?
Yes, sir. As City Attorney stated, a new subsection G will be distance requirements. Any convenience store with gas sales shall be a minimum of 2,000 feet from any other currently licensed convenience store with gas sales on the same side of the street. Locations, new convenience stores with gas sales shall only be permitted along arterial and collector streets. And then we have lot size minimums. Convenience stores with gas sales shall have a minimum of lot size of 1 acre, and then you can get a special exception if it's a half acre to an acre. And then you have to have a minimum of 6 pumps.
This is effective January 1 for distance requirements and locations, correct?
Correct.
All right. Any questions around the table? Anybody in the audience want to be heard on this? Don't see any hands, Mayor. We'll bring that back in 1 week for a vote. Got a couple of special exception requests. First one is tattoo body piercing at 1234 Broadway. It's in the CRD district, which is allowed now by previous amendment. That's ready for action.
All right, motion second to approve item 7. Any discussion on that item? Hearing none, please put it on the screen, and councilors, you may vote.
All right. Tucker in the affirmative?
Yes, it's shown.
Okay.
Councilor Chambers, you voting in the affirmative? Affirmative. Okay. That's fine, that's fine. Just want to make sure we don't miss you.
That passes. All right, item 8, we need a motion to allow Councilor Garrett to recuse on this special exception.
Second.
Motion second to allow Councilor Garrett's recusal. All in favor say aye. Are there any opposed to that? All right. You.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve item 8. Any discussion to that? All right, hearing none, if you would put it on the screen, and councilors, please vote. Okay.
That's approved. Mr. Gibson, that one's approved, number 8, and that's all the formal business agenda, Mayor, but we do have a request for executive session, a short one on litigation. That's all we've got.
Okay. All right, and we are now at the public agenda. And just as a reminder, when you come up, just please state your name and the city you live. We don't need your street address. And you'll have 5 minutes. Unfortunately, right at 5 minutes, I'll have to cut you off just to be consistent with everybody else. But you may come back at the end of the clerk's agenda to finish up to 3 minutes if you weren't able to express your thoughts adequately. All right? So the first up is Mr. David Young regarding speed zone cameras.
Thank you, everyone. My name's David Young. I live in Midland, Georgia. And I wanted to share with you a quick paragraph from a news article I found regarding these speed cameras. They're getting around everywhere in our state. So here's an article from Atlanta First News. Public records from 54 Georgia municipalities reveal these cameras have generated more than $112 million in revenue since 2019. That amount has some lawmakers and city leaders questioning their real motivation. I'm questioning it too. No one likes to hear new tax, so this is basically a Trojan horse, a golden goose revenue generator disguised as school safety for our kids. It's really about City Hall getting their hands in our pockets. And just for the record, I've not received one of these tickets. But the average fine, from what I hear, is $75 average. If it's not about the money, then make it $20. Make it $15. But that's not enough money, is it? Who would be foolish enough to pay a ticket to one of these cameras? You have the right to reasonable doubt. What if these things aren't calibrated correctly? I've already shared with my city councilman about these notice of dismissals, false triggers. I will never pay a fine to a camera that sometimes has a false trigger. There's your reasonable doubt right there. So get these cameras out of here, stand up for your constituents, and get your hands out of our pockets. That's all I had to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Young. And I will, I don't know if we've got anybody from the Sheriff's Police Department. Now, the Sheriff's already initiated some of those camera locations. The police are soon to follow. And just to be clear, this started because we've had a number of fatalities for our young students that are walking along the sidewalk. There's no ticket generated unless you're doing more than 11 miles an hour over the speed limit in a school zone. So it's not like there's discretion. If there's 1 mile over the speed zone, we're gonna ticket you. It purely began as an effort to try to prevent any future deaths of these young people. But I thoroughly understand where you're coming from, sir, and I appreciate very much your perspective on it. All right. Next is Ms. Teresa Elamine, representing Southern Anti-Racism Network regarding reducing poverty, animal control, and East Winton.
Deputy Clerk, could you help me out? I'm not sure what the count is, but you'll give me back the extras. Thank you. Teresa Elamine, founder and board chair of Southern Anti-Racism Network, living in East Winton. So I'll just start with East Winton. You know, like I say, number 3, if you're not gonna try to do a good job, why take the job at all? You know, we really need support from our representative, number 3, in East Winton. East Winton, historic Black neighborhood. The house I live in was built in 1945. I imagine those Black soldiers came home and built those beautiful brick homes with a lot of pride, a lot of pride. On the block I live on, between Briarwood and Lawyers Lane, it's the Pride Block. When I moved there, neighbors was shouting at me, gotta get the grass cut. I got the best yard man in town, Mr. Timothy Veals. And he keeps the yard looking good, and everybody competes with me. But you go past Briarwood, there's a dump, literally, a dump at a residence. Somebody supposedly lives there, I think, but it's a dump. It's a dump site, and it needs to be cleaned up. Between Shaw and Bamboo, number 3, so much trash, unbelievable trash, unbelievable. On Thursday, November 7th, I talked to the incomparable Marcy in your office. After 5 attempts of trying to get somebody, they helped me at 311, I got Marcy. And Marcy got Monique from Public Works before I could get to my door out of the car, to show you how good the employees are compared to how the representatives are. Monique was pulling up in the truck, explaining to me about the green cards versus the other cards. She worked the whole weekend. I hope she gets her comp time. She stopped by my house on Sunday just to make sure that I got it right so that they could pick up my trash today. That's the employees compared to number 3, got his calls transferred to the clerk's office because he don't want to take no messages, no voicemail set up. I'll hang around and come back. But hey, you ain't the only one who gonna get spanked over these next 2 years. I'm gonna spank him real good. Talk to your brother about you. Gotta call me back. We need help in the East Wind. You hear me? So on the question of poverty and animal control, there is a link. When people get evicted, what do they do with their pets? Because their pets got evicted too. Do they take them to the shelter, or do they just let the cats roam the street? I've never seen so many feral cats in a community in my life. It's a public health hazard. All these feral cats, watching them do their business in my backyard. Something needs to be done about the feral cats. And on the question of poverty, that 2025 plan, supposedly with the chamber and the city that was done, started under that other mayor. You see anybody doing anything about poverty? Not a thing, not a thing. I'll try to hang around and come back because I see my time is running out. I could say a whole lot more about the poverty, and I will if I can hang around. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. All right. Next is Mr. Carl Latini, an ongoing issue with vehicle accidents to the house and property, and discuss possible resolutions. Welcome, sir.
Good morning, Carl Latini, Fortson, Georgia. Thanks for the opportunity to come and speak on behalf of my family and my mother, Dorothy Latini. So, probably most people sitting up there probably knows where this house is. My parents bought this house in the 70s. In the 80s, there was a widening project, Moon Road and Miller Road. So, before that widening project, there were no accidents, vehicular accidents at this property. Part of this widening project took Moon Road, which was a 2-lane, to a 4-lane, but right in front of my parents' house, which is in the pictures that you have, there are 6 lanes. There are 2 turning lanes. And the Miller Road that intersects went from, it was a 2-lane road, and then Miller Road became a 4-lane road. Since that widening project, there have been, and I've got 12 of them listed, but there's been multiple ones that have just come into the yard and not actually hit the house. If you'll see, I think I have on the very first picture where there's a corner of the house gone. So that bedroom there is the bedroom that my daughter sleeps in when she visits my mom. And you can't really see, may not be able to see it that good, but there's a chunk of brick about this big that's sitting right where her head would be in that bed. That accident happened February 6th of this year. Since that, the day before the Columbus inspector was going to come, another car hit and totaled the white car that's in the picture. A week and 1 day after that is the black car that totaled out that young man's vehicle and caused significant damage to the house again. So my mom has been out of that house since February and will continue to have to be out of that house. I've called, well, first my mom and dad called the city, and they just called up there, and by them calling, in the picture you can see there's 2 caution signs on each side of the road. After another one of the accidents, my mom and my dad came to an engineering meeting, and they decided to put, and you may not be able to see it good on that picture, but there's a lighted sign up under the traffic light. After this last wreck, I called a couple of people that friends of my mom gave me to try to talk to, and our initial request was to put a guardrail right there. And they said that they didn't want to do that because then the city would be liable for any kind of accident, maybe a fatality that would happen. But there are guardrails any direction, left, right, and down Miller Road within less than a mile. So we don't know why we couldn't put it, but so I came to see what kind of options that we could have. I mean, I think that, in my opinion, there's no question of if that house is going to get hit again. It's just when. So I think the best option would be for the city to maybe purchase the house and do whatever you guys do to make it safe. I think tearing it down and maybe putting some kind of buffer down there. But I don't know. I just came to kind of speak for my mom to see what could be done about it. I think that's all I have. Does anybody have any questions for me?
Ms. Latitti, I know you've spoken with somebody in my office, and
Yes.
they're still working on that. They've worked with the police department, talked with engineering, trying to find a way that, one of the challenges we face is, and engineering reminds us of this, is when we ask for things like a 4-way stop or some different type of traffic calming, it inadvertently and unintentionally creates another hazard. So we've got to try to figure out the best way to handle it. I know exactly where you're talking about. I grew up in Windsor Park, and we are working on it, trying to see if we can come up with a solution, because I didn't realize it had this many accidents. And when you were sharing that with the lady in my office, it was kind of a surprise.
Yeah.
So we will be following back up with you.
Okay. Thank you very much.
And I know the engineer is here. I don't know, sight unseen, that he can say a lot about it, but Vance, I don't know if you have any comments?
I mean, just the fact that whoever decided way back then to put a red light directly over her driveway, I mean, probably every red light in Columbus has been ran at some point. So they probably would have, I would have thought that would have been a concern back then.
Well, we will continue to look at it, and we'll get back in touch with you this week.
Okay. Thank you for your time.
Yes, sir. Councilor Crabb?
Thank you. This had been brought to my attention probably March, April, I think is when you reached out to me, and I reached out to engineering. And so, I mean, I understand that there's things that we have to work through, but this is coming on almost a year, and they've had multiple accidents. This is a liability issue waiting to happen. And I mean, my suggestion was see these yellow and black caution signs. If you're not going to put a guardrail, then at least put a series of those across the front. You know, something that catches more attention. I mean, it's rather frustrating that it would take this long for us to make a decision like this.
Okay, thank you. Mr. City Manager, do you have a comment?
Mayor, I was going to say, I know that you indicate your office got a call. I'd like to join the effort to see what options would be available for what I see here. And so I'd like to offer that.
All right. Counselor Cogle?
Mr. City Attorney, what are the legal implications of putting up a guardrail? Sometimes there's differing opinions in departments on what legally is allowed and not. So are there indeed legal implications of putting up a guardrail at that location or in general?
There can be legal implications if you put one up and don't adhere to a maintenance schedule or something like that. But otherwise, there are not. County rules of tort liability would apply. The county's immune. But so if something is not adhered to, if you put a structure there and maintenance not adhered to or anything similar, there's a possibility of liability. So. But that's, the engineers need to determine, you know, if one is warranted there or if there are other structures, signs, warnings that can be used.
I mean, it seems that it's definitely warranted, and I mean, my question to the engineering department and to the city manager would be, is it unreasonable to not be able to maintain that guardrail? Mr. City Manager, if we were to install a guardrail, would we be able to maintain that on a proper schedule?
I think certainly, but I'd like to come back with options.
I mean, you know, if there's no legal implications, and to Councilor Crabb's point, this has been going on for a year, how many more accidents and how many more fatalities, or if there has been a fatality or not, but if we have the ability to put some safety measures in, I'm not sure why we would be hesitating to do such a thing if the city manager the city attorney has said that there's not any legal implications. So I would like to see that happen sooner than later.
Mayor, again, I'd like to, there's criteria for guardrails. You know, I'm not familiar with this, but I don't like what I see, and I'd like to come back with options, Mayor.
And I think that's appropriate course of action, because there may be some other types of traffic calming that we can put that are not just the standard guardrails that may be able to protect the property, but also protect the driver as well. And then there's also some options we'll get with the engineer to see if there's a number of things that can be put in play, to include flashing lights, trying to give them a little bit more constructive notice. So, we'll look at it and bring it back. I've already told the gentleman that we would follow back up with him, so we'll make sure that happens.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Next is Aaron Boutillier, representing Rose Hill neighborhood, to provide an update.
Good morning. My name is Erin. Oh, I'm sorry, Mayor.
Go ahead. I'm just trying to.
My name is Erin Boutillier. I live in Midland, Georgia. I own and operate a business in the Rose Hill neighborhood. I wanted to just stop in and bring you up to date on the Rose Hill neighborhood. As many of you know, our neighborhood has been negatively affected by the Safe House, operated by the Chattahoochee Valley Jail Ministry, since it originally came to the neighborhood back in 2014. We've experienced loitering, public intoxication, drug dealing, prostitution, rape, being held at gunpoint, stabbings, break-ins, public exposure repeatedly, and many other violations of the laws and CCG codes. The Safe House has also played a negative role in a recent rezoning request on Talbotton Road and in the sale of the Rose Hill School. In 2022, Columbus Police Department responded to 355 911 calls at the Safe House address. In 2023, 359 911 calls at the Safe House address. That's almost one a day. These calls ranged from, according to police reports, rape, exposing, person with weapon, assault, theft, narcotics, domestic, noise complaints, sick or injured, and overdose. Our property values have decreased over 60% in the last 5 years. 60% of our investment has decreased. At the repeated request of the neighbors, CCG has been great and have worked hard to facilitate meetings, increase temporary patrols, enforce property codes, and keep the right-of-ways maintained. We've had numerous meetings over the last 2 years discussing ways we could all improve our community. After years of requests, the Safe House implemented some basic rules. They close the building and tell people that they finally have to leave after they close at 2. Can't come back until 7. It's decreased the loitering on their property. It has not removed the attractive nuisance that the Safe House provides in our neighborhood. New homeless camps are popping up just a couple blocks away. People are sleeping on sidewalks, as well as vacant properties are still being broken into. Recently, it came to our attention that CCG has requested the Safe House obtain a certificate of occupancy and comply with zoning ordinances, which they should have done when they moved into the church building 10 years ago. We have also been made aware that the Safe House is stating they are a church and are exempt from those conditions. The concept of the Safe House as a church is far-fetched and not supported by facts. Although charitable, doing great work, potentially evangelical, primary activities in the majority of the square footage of the facility are dedicated to being a day center for the homeless. According to Safe House materials, they provide meals, clothing, a mobile health clinic, NA meetings, case management assistance. Their building is used for a drug testing lab, warming station. We recognize that churches are different to everybody and should be. However, in our city, the UDO specifies what a church could be. Places of worship in the UDO code says a church, mosque, synagogue used primarily as a place of public or private worship. Primarily. We have not found evidence that the Safe House is registered with the state as a church, or that they have a church membership or leadership, or that they receive donations as a church, that they interface with other churches as a church. One can preach the word of God, try to influence others that have gone astray, live based on a religious doctrine, and overall they can do good things. But that does not mean in any way that they are a church. Our legal definition needs to be upheld. Our neighborhood was denied the opportunity to have our voices heard when the Safe House moved into the area 10 years ago. There's a battered women's shelter, mentoring youth program. There used to be a rape assault center that had to move, and other sensitive entities. We want to make sure that council and CCG staff know that some of us are still here believing in our neighborhood. We want it back. We appreciate CCG continuing to push that the Safe House comply with zoning codes and even to get a certificate of occupancy. Thank you for your time.
Councilor Kogel.
Thank you, Aaron, for coming. I just want to reiterate again that this neighborhood has taken a very proactive approach to making their neighborhood better, and this is not a knee-jerk reaction whatsoever. This has been a long process of trying to work together as a neighborhood with all entities, and there's just some growing concerns that are going on, and I think council and staff need to really take into consideration some of the words that that Aaron has said today, because that neighborhood does have some significant health and safety concerns that are going on in it. And I think everything that you have said, Aaron, is completely spot on. So thank you again for coming and being a champion for that neighborhood.
Mr. City Manager?
I don't have any comments on
Okay.
that, Mayor.
I think that's the last comment. Aaron, thank you very much. All right, so we'll move on to the city manager's agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First on my agenda, Mayor, I have what comes before you annually during this month at this time.
Motion and a second to approve the annual unused sick leave payment. Any discussion on this? All right, hearing none, if you would, please, it's posted, so councilors, please vote. That passes.
Next, Mayor, I've got what is known as LMIG.
Second. Motion and a second to approve the local government improvement grant. Any questions or discussion on that? All right, please put it on the screen, and councilors, please vote. You might want to identify what that is, Mr. City Manager, for folks watching.
Yes, local maintenance program is what LMIG would be. It's a local government and improvement grant. It's $2.4 million. There's a 10% match, and it's an annual allocation that comes down from Georgia DOT. And so in this case, this year, as we told you early on, because we were being challenged with meeting the budget for the Buena Vista Road project with the bridge over the railroad track, we have recommended that this support that. And later on, we're asking council to vote to approve moving forward. We've got the funding in place to move forward with that project, and I know people have been waiting, and so we're ready to go.
Okay. All right, and that is approved. Councilor Thomas votes affirmatively.
Then I've got a no-match snack grant right from.
Second. Motion second to approve item 3. Any discussion on that item? All right, please put it on the screen. Councilors, you can vote. City Manager, if you'd walk through what that is, please.
It's a snack grant for Parks and Recreation. There's no match, but it's from the Georgia Department of Early Child Care and Learning right from the start, and it continues the child and adult care food program here, and so it's typically an annual grant. Mayor, number 4 and 5 are both donations to the police department.
All right, there's a motion second to approve item 4 and 5. Both of these are donations to the police department. Any questions or discussion on those 2 items? All right, please put it on the screen, and although it'll just reflect one item, it will be for approval for both of these. So councilors, please vote. Okay, and that is approved.
So moving to purchases, Mayor and Council.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve all of the purchases, items A through J. Is there any one that someone would like pulled? Councilor Hickey?
Mr. Mayor, just right after this, approving the purchases, I'd just like to ask if Mr. Scott is present. I'd like for him to just come forth. I just had a question about the Bull Creek Bulldog tackle. If he's,
They say he's not here.
He's not here?
No.
Okay.
All right, so there's a motion and a second, A through J. If you put it on the screen, and again, please remember that while this shows up on your computer as one item, you're voting for or against all of them. Councilors, please vote. Mr. City Manager, if you would go through those purchases so the public knows what's
Yes, sir.
included.
So Mayor and Council, A is just to replenish our black carts, some of our black carts, which are the household waste carts. B, taser and accessories for the police department. C is an HVAC system replacement that we have presented here before for the Convention and Trade Center. We talked about that, I think, the last meeting and the meeting before. And then we've got HVAC system replacement at the Liberty Theater, that's D. E is annual maintenance for Intergov licensing and permitting software. F is 2 brush chippers for Public Works to chip trees on site. G is declaration of surplus and donation of 1 vehicle to Harris County Sheriff's Office. I know the sheriff and Chance Corbett have both worked on this. It's our old command vehicle. You know, we received a new command vehicle that we're all excited about. And so the old one, though it has problems, Sheriff Jolly, who had scheduled to be here today, but his schedule got interrupted, but Sheriff Jolly was going to be here to thank you. It's that old command vehicle that will be going to Harris County. H is Buena Vista Road improvement at Spiderweb. And so I'm going to pause there and say that's a $45.8 million project. That is a long time waiting. And then we told you last meeting that we had the value engineer take Bull Creek Bridge, which is right there next to the KFC where this project will land. Bull Creek Bridge needed to be replaced. We had to take that out of this project because it's part of this project, and I mean, the numbers just didn't work. And then working through our Georgia DOT board member, Kathy Williams, she worked with GDOT board and with us, and they were able to fund us $6.4 million to replace the Bull Creek Bridge. So we're able to get this done at the 45.8 and the Bull Creek Bridge done at another $6.4 million allocated by Georgia DOT. And so we're moving forward. I know the community will be excited to know that, you know, all of the utilities and all have been worked, relocated in phase 1. The Annette Avenue roundabout at Martin Luther King and Annette was constructed in phase 1. And so with the utilities already relocated, and we've got this funding approved, and we've got the vendor, and so we're ready to move it. Then I, investigative analytics software for the sheriff's office that will go in the new building that the sheriff has moved into. J is a contract extension for temporary staffing for the Civic Center until March 2025, and they just use, obviously, as you know, the staffing on an as-needed basis when there's a concert or an event. They come in and that staffing is paid for by the promoter or whoever's put it on the event, but this extends that. And so those are the purchases. I've got a few updates that I do want to cover today. And the first one is Fifth Avenue T-Splosh update. Deputy City Manager Hodge is going to introduce our guest for that project, for this update.
So good morning, Mayor and Council, Mr. City Manager, Mr. City Attorney. This is the Fifth Avenue connection for the trail, which will go from 14th Street to 10th Street. We have Mitchell Greenway from Stantec. He is our consultant on this project to provide you an update. And then we will need just to get confirmation from council on the direction, which side of the street we're planning to move forward with on this connection. So with that, I'll introduce Mitchell Greenway from Stantec.
Thank you. Okay, so the Fifth Avenue project, I'll just go into a little bit of detail of where we are in the design process, how we got here. This thing is advancing on its own. And then what the next steps are in the design process. So this is commonly referred to as T-SPLOST. It's the TIA project, Transportation Investment Act. It's a Band 1 project, the PI number for GDOT 0019537. So you can look up additional details on the TIA website or GDOT website using that information. So that's the official project description, but it will run from connecting the trail on 10th, at 10th Street up to the trail at 14th. And then there's already an existing segment of trail from 14th up to the Linwood connector. Being a T-SPLOST or TIA project, we're financially constrained, so as we work through the design process, we have to make decisions, cost-effective decisions that keep us within the TIA budget. So everything that we talk about here today will be kind of from that context. This is just a really brief description of the design process. There are a lot of additional steps kind of built into this flow chart. We've done data collection, which includes topographic surveys, environmental resource surveys, preparing a property database for the corridor. We did a landscape walkthrough with the city arborist to see what impacts would be on the west side versus the east side. It's pretty consistent there, and I do not know. But we will have to make some accommodations to maintain some of the landscaping that is already in place. And then we also during the data collection process did a utility walkthrough with Georgia Power to see which side Georgia Power felt would be most cost effective from a utility standpoint. And in their eyes, the west side would be easier. There's similar impacts on both sides with utility poles, utility guy wires, but there are more of those impacts on the east side of Fifth Avenue than there are on the west side. So dive a little bit into some of the comparisons from west to east at some various locations. So at the 11th Street intersection, this is the west side of the intersection. If you look closely there, there's a ped pole that would be in conflict if we widen that sidewalk or to put the trail in. So we would need to relocate that ped pole. That's a pretty inexpensive cost. Can generally be done for $5,000 to $10,000 in comparison to a total signal replacement. Which if you look at the east side of that intersection, widening there would require a total signal replacement. And that could get into utilities as well. Moving the signal pole back from where it's shown here in this picture, we would have to extend mast arms here, which could increase the height of them, which could get into the overhead utilities. So you could be looking at a cost of $250,000, $300,000 just to relocate the traffic signal if we go to the east side. Moving up to the 12th Street intersection on the west side, there are some grade issues that we have to work around. We can easily do that. There's some utilities, valve boxes, meter boxes and such that would have to be adjusted to grade, but that's a pretty inexpensive relocation cost there for us to deal with. On the other side of the street, on the, I guess, the east side of the intersection, grades are a little bit steeper. There are more utilities there that would be, I guess, require much more involved utility resolution to be able to fit the trail in there and to meet ADA standards for the trail. In addition to that, as we make those adjustments to the grades, there's some historic granite curbing there that we would have to, I guess, mitigate, mitigate, probably maybe some compensatory solutions involved with that. But that could get very costly, could extend the duration of the project. And it would require some right-of-way acquisition, which with the west side of the intersection, we wouldn't have to contend with. So the 13th Street intersection, this is the west side. We're looking south in this picture, so it's a little misleading. There is a traffic signal cabinet here, utility guy wire that you see in the very corner, bottom corner of the photo. And then behind that traffic signal cabinet is a sanitary sewer manhole. So these are some things that we would have to work around. Signal cabinets probably have or should have some slack wire cable in there that it can be shifted slightly to allow us to fit the trail in between the backside of that existing sidewalk and the cabinet. So it is an expense that we'd have to deal with, but we think it is less expensive than, or less expensive, less obtrusive than going on the east side of this intersection. What looks fairly innocuous is a catch basin. It's maybe a little difficult to see. There's a little sliver between the pavement and the sidewalk there. That's the catch basin. That would need to be relocated if we go on this side of the intersection. That could get into underground facilities having to dig everything up, realign pipes underground, get into utility conflicts underground, moving utility poles, guy wires overhead, and then we would have to reconstruct curbing and some of the pavement in the intersection just to put the trail here. So both sides of this intersection have some cost, but the west side is probably, or well, is most definitely the more cost-effective option. And then looking in between the intersections, segments of roadway, there are similar impacts to both sides, but north of 13th Street, there were a few things that we noted that could be significant in the decision-making process. On the west side, AT&T driveway has a gate entry pad that would need to be relocated. That's low voltage, usually wires. If we need to extend cables, they can be spliced very easily. So it would be something we would need to coordinate with AT&T, but we don't see that as being a major obstacle. On the other side of the street, we have this business. I think everybody is probably familiar with this. There are parking conflicts currently on the sidewalk. There are also operational conflicts with vehicles pulling in and out of the bays, the garages there. And so we don't want to disrupt the business, but the business would create a safety hazard for people utilizing the trail on that side of the street. So with all these things in mind, we've started developing plans with the thought that we stay within the budget and we meet the needs of the TIA project on the west side of the intersection. This was kind of, I guess, a brief overview of the schedule. Completed activities to date. Our next step would be to finalize the preliminary plans, go to a plan review meeting with the engineering department and with Georgia Department of Transportation in the TIA office, and then move into the final plans phase for construction sometime late spring, early summer for the project. And with that, are there any questions?
Councilor Kogel?
What's the cost difference between the east side and the west side?
We have not run a total cost difference. The couple of intersections that I've pointed out here, the traffic signal, again, I mentioned that's probably a $300,000 increase just at that intersection. The catch basin location where I mentioned digging everything up, that's probably another, just ballpark $150,000 project on that corner as opposed to maybe $25,000 on the opposite corner. So we're looking at magnitudes of really probably doubling project cost on the east side of the east side of Fifth Avenue.
Can we get a cost comparison before we vote on that?
Sure, yeah, we can definitely
Thank
pull
you.
that together.
Okay,
We've got one more. Councilor Crabb, I turned your light off. If you'd turn it on again, please.
Thank you. Can you, what is this section connecting? Can we get a wider view of what's going on? Because I know it comes down by the cemetery, and then it kind of turns and it goes in front of Fetch, and then we turn right and go up. I'm not sure what street that one is. That's, I think maybe 14th.
14th.
14th, then we go up, 14th. So is it sounded like you were extending it farther south than that.
That's correct. It will extend.
And so what is it connecting to down past that?
So there's currently a trail that runs along 10th Street that I believe that runs all the way to.
Dragonfly Trail down there.
Right. So it would
Okay.
tie into that trail.
Okay.
So you're connecting, it's really a missing link between two trails.
Okay.
Two trails.
That makes sense now. The one question I have is, how are you going to get them to the west side? What, are they gonna cross the street somewhere like maybe by Sputnik Bar, or, right in that area? They're gonna cross the street onto the west side?
So we would utilize the signal crossing at 14th Street, and they would cross at the
Okay, so we'd
intersection.
still cross at the
We wouldn't
same
have any
place.
mid-block, we're not proposing any mid-block crossings with the trail.
Okay, so we'd continue to come down by Linwood, get onto Fifth on the east side, and then cross over to the west side at 14th and continue on to the Dragonfly Trail that way.
That's correct.
Okay, that makes sense to me. Okay, thank you.
I think that's all the questions. Exciting project.
so we'll make sure that you, Mayor, and the council get the comparison on the opposing, right side, left side, and so forth, and then make sure we outline the route. So anything else you need today?
So as the city manager stated, we'll get the cost estimates to council, and then we will want confirmation on east side versus west side so that we can move forward. So we'll bring that, if not the next meeting, the first meeting in December, and ask for a vote of council for west side versus east side.
Okay, thank you. And so next, Mayor and Council, this update, those of you who were at the Hometown Connection heard this update, but I thought it'd be good for the public to hear this update. And then the only thing I've added to this update is that that you did not hear at the Hometown Connection. We're going to talk about the jail maintenance work that this council approved $6 million to do some things that life, health, safety kinds of things that we're working on while we are still moving forward with work and discussion on new jail. So we've got maintenance of this jail that will bridge us through the time that decisions are made regarding a new jail location and so forth. And you'll be hearing from us soon on that part, but you will not hear that today.
And so, but the infrastructure update, Deputy City Manager Pam Hodge.
Sure. Good morning again, Mayor and Council, Mr. City Manager, Mr. City Attorney. This is an infrastructure update. We've included all city facilities, road projects, stormwater projects, and as the City Manager mentioned, also on the existing jail improvement. And I think this slide really tells a great story. It is from 2010 until current, and these are projects, funds that have been either budgeted or in the future to come. And it just shows that there is a wide variety of projects going on throughout the community and each one of these areas of our community, North, Panhandle, East, Midtown, South, and the Uptown area, over $1.2 billion. And these are either funds that have been expended or funds that have already been approved either through the SPLOST or the T-SPLOST. And this just outlines all the different funding sources that are utilized to provide these infrastructure improvements throughout our community. And you can see the first five actually are taxes that, sales taxes that the voters have approved. So they have entrusted us with completing and bringing these projects to fruition over the next 10 years or from the previous 10 years. And that's the Transportation Special Purpose Local Option Sales Tax from 2012, voted again in 2022. We also received T-SPLOST discretionary funds as part of those T-SPLOST voter-approved taxes. The Special Purpose Local Option Sales Tax, which was, again, in 2021, $400 million worth of projects throughout our community. The other local option sales tax that was approved in 2009 was a 70-30 split for public safety and 30% for infrastructure. So we've been able to provide many projects through the OLOST. We utilize the millage from the Stormwater Fund as well as the paving fund to do projects, again, for those specific purposes. We participate with GDOT on their grant programs. Council approved one of those programs today that's been allocated to the Spiderweb project. We work with public-private partnerships in our community all the time. We have private donations. Just a few examples include the Friends of the Dragonfly Trail, CORDA, our tennis association. We're working through a project now with the Pickleball Association, as well as others who have invested private dollars in our community. And then we also utilize the Columbus Building Authority bonds for different projects in our community. And we have both the engineering director and inspection and codes director, as well as the public works director, that's going to walk through each one of the projects that is ongoing in our community. And I will turn it over to Vance Beck.
Thank you, Ms. Hodge. Good morning, Mr. Mayor, Mr. City Manager, City Attorney, and Council. I'm going to go through mine pretty quick because we have a large amount of stuff going on. So projects under construction, Williams-Fortson, hoping to get traffic shifted around Thanksgiving onto the detour. Got a couple of utility conflicts that have slowed us up, but we're working through them, some communication conflicts, but we should that one should go pretty quick once we get the detour in. 35th Street, the stormwater relocation, we're just waiting on a few punch list items. Final stripe on the 35th. We went ahead and opened it, but there's very little left to be done with that job. Mott's Green, coming along very nicely, should finish hopefully next month. That one's been a long time coming. Other larger projects, the DDI at Buena Vista Road's about 70% complete. They got the new bridge built on the south side, shifted traffic. They've got the columns in the median on the north side, so that one, it won't be long before they'll set beams. And that job is I think, slated for summer to be complete. The I-85 Cedar Road interchange is coming along nicely also. Had the advantage of already having the bridge structures on the interstate there, so it's just ramp work, and they're already 42% complete. The State Route 127 widening Veterans Parkway They've gotten all the right-of-way acquired but one parcel, so they continue to work from south to north on that job, and that one's coming along pretty nicely. So some that we have bids received and waiting award, we got the Infantry Road Follow Me Trail. Got a little bit of logistical paperwork to do with GDOT because of the money. Figures were a little bit different. It actually came in a little under the budget. So we've got to revise some paperwork with them. Flood abatement project, 19th Street. We voted on that last council meeting, so we've been routing the contract. So that one, we anticipate starting first of the year. That's another one that's been a long time coming. Spiderweb, we're going to talk about that a little bit later today, but we've tracked down all of the money, and contractor's eager to get started in January, so that's going to get voted on a little bit later, and hopefully we'll move forward pretty quickly on that. TIA Band 1, we have about 10 or 12 jobs. They're all under design. So steam mill is probably the furthest along in design. Again, right-of-way acquisition will be the critical path on all of these jobs. Fifth Avenue, we just had the presentation on. The roundabout at 13th, 17th, and Linwood. We've nailed down the concept on that. We'll be doing public involvement, I think, January. Other TIA 1 jobs that are under design, Andrews Road, Brennan, Whitesville, the University Avenue, Manchester Expressway at Central Church Road intersection. GDOT is handling that design. The others, some of them are GDOT administered, some are ours administered, but we still meet monthly on that, so it doesn't really, there's no advantage, disadvantage. It just, we work together on which ones we want to administer. The Riverwalk repaving and maintenance, I rode bikes, my staff and I, last week or the week before with the Dragonfly folks from one end to the other to scope that project. So we're getting ready to get started on the plans for that. Buena Vista Road is a consultant's been selected through GDOT for that one. That goes from Winton Road all the way to the Spiderweb. South Lumpkin, we're under design. It's currently a 5-lane. They say a 3-lane will work, and we can get the trail and bike lanes and all that without purchasing right away. So we're looking at, we'll get everybody's input on that as further as we get along. Liberty Theater, the street improvements, it's, whenever they get when we get the roof and all of that done, we will get started on that. Doesn't make any sense to go out there and do something nice and get it torn up. All right, Band 2 projects that we currently, Morris Road and Forest Road, we don't have contracts yet with consultants. We'll get those pretty soon, but they're Band 2 projects on down the road. J.R. Allen at Schaumburg and Blackman, they're already working on that. They've got a consultant selected. 2nd Avenue improvements from Thomaston Road to Manchester, that's under design. You got the airport improvements. Manchester Expressway at County Line Mahaffey. That, I think they're already under design on that one. You know, we did the temporary roundabout to alleviate congestion in there. And I think they've gotten the traffic counts and are moving forward to start design of that. Williams Road widening, Casita Road widening, the churches improvements are all Band 3 projects. I'm staying in close contact with the T office, and we'll get those contracts administered at the proper time. Bull Creek Dragonfly Trail Connector, that's where Columbus Water Works is having to lay a new sewer line, and they're going to hopefully get the trail on top of that. That'll be a win-win. And then Metro has some projects also. Additional projects, I've got 8 streets resurfacing under Z230 money. That's been, we're under design on that. In fact, the consultant sent the state the packet this morning for review. So hopefully those will go to contract in the summer. The 8th Street improvements, we're working through some logistics with the State Historic Preservation Officer concerning the roundabout at 2nd. The storm drain system at College Drive, we have just gotten all of our own calls on board, so we're going to get that project to an on-call, the Winton Road wall replacement to an on-call, Front Avenue, the flooding where the collapsed pipes are on 10th, 11th to an on-call. We're still working with the Historic District at options for the street rehab. That's a block by block pending funding to separate the sanitary and storm. Military Drive is under design. And then we've been working with on some gateway signage. We're going to be meeting with some of the sign companies and try to get some options to move forward on that. We've gotten the blessing from GDOT coming in on Highway 80 out near just east of Pratt Whitney. There's a good spot that we can also get power to so it can be lit. So we've been working on that. GDOT, the railroad crossing at 9th Street, we're going to partner with GDOT and Norfolk Southern to completely rehab that one. Speaking of railroad crossings, Smith Road is closed today. They're reworking that with all brand new rubber panels to make that one nice. Oglethorpe Bridge is coming. Miller Manchester, that's a picture there. They've already set beams. They'll shift traffic to the north side and then tear out the middle and work to get it back divided at that point. J.R. Allen, Manchester, they finished that. The diverging diamond at Bradley Park, J.R. Allen's coming along. And with that, that's all of the roadway projects, if anybody's got any questions.
We do. Councilor Crabb?
Thank you. Do you have a preliminary design for the gateway signage?
No, ma'am, we want to get a bunch of options and have everybody look at that and see how we want to go.
Okay.
Trying to mimic something they've done in Albany or Americus or somewhere, something very nice. Those signs end up being basically stucco. They got to be breakaway, but they look. So there is some design elements of those signs. You can't just go do cinder block and brick. It looks sturdy, but it's breakaway type stuff.
Sounds like we need a presentation on that alone.
Yeah,
we'll do
we'll make sure that, obviously, you see and approve whatever we're going to use at specific locations. So that'll be coming back to you.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you, Mayor. Could you, I heard from a utility worker that GDOT, I just wanted to get your opinion on this or see if you've heard anything. The roundabouts that GDOT talked about at Lynch and Macon Road, that they have abandoned one of the roundabouts. I think it's the one at Lynch. Have you heard anything?
Yeah, they did mention that in the meeting, and we were going to confirm that in our quarterly meeting next week. But from what I understand, the one at Lynch and Macon has gone away, but the one at 80 where Macon Road comes in is still being planned.
Okay, all right, great, all right. Well, you let me know when you hear something.
I will.
Thank you, sir, appreciate that. Thank you, Mayor.
I think that's all the questions, Mayor.
So next, Mayor, we're going to hear from Ryan Pruitt on the construction work on buildings that's going on. As you can see from what Director Beck presented, there's a lot of activity all over Columbus. It's spread all over Columbus, not in one location. And that was one reason, Deputy City Manager Hodge, we used that map at the beginning to show you that money is being spent not in just one area of Columbus, but all over Columbus. So, Director Pruitt.
Thank you, Mr. City Manager. Good morning, Mayor, members of council. Do have an update on our building projects. We're going to start with the largest, the Judicial Center. You all have seen this rendering before, but this is where we are headed. Currently on schedule to be complete in the summer of 2026. So the 8-story building is currently under construction there along 10th Street. So just some numbers, again, the new building scheduled to be complete in summer of 26, then all the departments will move in. Then we will work on demolishing the existing Government Center tower, which will happen sometime in 2027. Then there's parking and things like that, so they do still plan on imploding the tower at this time. Total project budget of $207.5 million, $200 from the SPLOST, $7.5 was approved by council to get us an additional floor to allow shell space within the building. 342,000 square feet, includes all those departments that you see listed here. One thing to note, just for comparison's sakes, all of these departments, with the exception of the public defender who's in the annex, but the rest of them are all currently squeezed into the government center tower, which is about 170,000 square feet or so. So when the new building is done, those departments will see a increase of about double their current space that they're operating in right now. So just a progress photo. This is from last week. You can see on the right-hand side, they are forming up and installing the reinforcing for the first elevated slab. That'll be the ground floor slab. So they've completed 2/3 of the basement slab underneath. They're working on the ground floor now, scheduled to place that later this week. Over on the left-hand side is where the next tower crane will go. We're hoping to do that this week. Unfortunately, it got pushed back, so that'll be installed on the 18th and 19th. So that section of First Avenue will be closed from 7 to 5 on those days to allow the trucks. They have to bring in about 30 to 40 18-wheelers with all the pieces of the crane. So that'll be happening next Monday and Tuesday. The next project, we've talked a lot about this as well, but the pools, so they are still under construction. These are the same pictures I used a little while ago, but they still remain on schedule and will be open next May. They'll be complete well before May, but we will, the city and Parks and Recreation will open them for next swimming season. Fire Station 5, we are hoping to bring that project to council either at the next council meeting or the first one in December, the final budget. The contractor and design team are working through some final value engineering ideas with my staff as well as the fire department. So we anticipate that project getting approved by council. We are on track to meet the budget at this time, but get approved and start next month. And Fire Station 5 is the one on Lynch Road next to Pratt and Whitney. City Hall, Phase 1, we moved in, started to believe almost a year and a half ago in 2023. Phase 2, Synovus is moving out of the bank building there at 12th and Broadway. We officially get our hands on that December 1st, and then we have some renovations to do to make it ready. So Phase 2 will be complete next summer, and then we will reshuffle all those departments. The mayor, city manager's office, city attorney's office, clerk, council, they get to move twice. They're the only departments that were lucky enough to get to move twice, so they will move again next summer, and then those departments in the annex will move over to City Hall after that. The sheriff's building, so again, this building is substantially complete. Council did at the last meeting approve some additional funding for furniture and some last little touch-up items, so we're currently completing that. The furniture has been ordered and will be on its way here soon. Synovus Park, this again is a final rendering of what the improvements will look like. You can see in the foreground, that is the clubhouse batting cage building. Of course, you got the stadium bowl remains exactly the same. It'll have all new seats, but the structure, the steel, the concrete, all that is exactly how it was. And then behind, on the first base side, is the patron building, which includes the club level at the top. And here's a progress photo. You can see masonry pretty much complete there on the clubhouse. They're starting to install some of the metal panels and the curtain wall and storefront systems there. They started work on the front gate. Here's another shot more from center field. So again, working on the field, they've been doing irrigation. The field has to be pretty much flat per MLB standards, so they're making sure all that is in order. Just a few more projects. Liberty Theater, so I do know council approved the HVAC system there. The roof was approved a meeting or two ago. The splash pads, we will have 2 splash pads currently scheduled to be open for next summer. That'll be the one here located near the CSC, as well as the one at Carver Park. Fire stations 4, 6, and 8, council approved preliminary design for 4 and 8, so those will be the next 2 that we do. And then we will bring back 6 after that. Parks and Recreation is working on all these SPLOS parks improvements. The Trade Center parking garage, that we have received RFP responses, that still is under review. And then we have kicked off Oxbow Creek. We met with the Golf Authority director, or the golf course director, last week to review what kind of improvements they want at Oxbow. So we plan on doing those renovations at Oxbow first before we move to the new clubhouse at Bull Creek. So before we go to the jail, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
So Mayor and Council, I'll say that what you've heard from Director Beck and Director Pruitt is about $1.2 billion in infrastructure projects that are in the works here in Columbus, Georgia, $1.2 billion, and that's funding, as Deputy City Manager Hodge showed you, from a number of different sources. And so these projects are funded. We've just got to manage them and bring them to reality. And so it's exciting.
Councilor Thomas?
I'm not sure if Mr. Pruitt or the city manager can answer this. The new fire station headquarters, has that purchase been completed?
Yes.
So,
go ahead.
Well, yeah, so we own the building now. We have the architect finalized the plans, and so we are working to get those out to bid to contractors, so we can get, hopefully before the first of the year, get that awarded, and then they can start on the renovation for that.
Are you going to put up some kind of a sign that says something like future home of the headquarters?
We can. I know the contractor, certainly when they usually like to have a sign, of course, with their name, but we can have them put, future home of
I think
EMS.
with it being in the prominent place that it is on Veterans Parkway, that might be a good thing to consider at least.
Yeah, I agree. So,
And then when do you think that it will be completed and they'll move in?
So if we do get started about the first of the year, there's really no long lead items. The longest material we would have to order would be doors and hardware, which would take about 8 weeks or so. So I would hope that they could get it done in about 4 to 5 months.
So probably by the middle of next year, we'll have it.
We should be.
We should be moved?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you.
yeah, that's an exciting project as well. Yeah, so. But if there are no other questions, we'll bring Drell Short to talk about the jail.
Thank you, Mr. City Manager. Good morning, Mr. Mayor, Council. It's good to see you all again this morning. I'm going to be very brief, but I will give you the update on all of the issues that we've been contending with at the jail. Some of the life safety issues that we've been working on are mold remediation, the roof, plumbing, and of course the facade. All mold remediation is complete, which I'm glad to hear and know it's been done. The total cost to remove all of the mold within this facility was at $225,000. The roof, our consultants, Edifice Consulting, has submitted the final design specs to purchasing. The roof RFQ should be out by this week. We have been told that it's there, and we're just waiting for purchasing to put it out. Once we receive the bids, we will decide at that time which vendor will be awarded for this repair. The estimated cost from the roof survey that we had done last year was about $690,000, which is way under budget than we expected. But as you can see, and I've showed you this schematic before, the red dots are all the portions of the roof that have to be replaced, and the yellow dots are all of the portions of the roof that can be repaired. And that's where we get the $690,000. Plumbing leaks have been just a thorn in our side, as you all are aware, but major plumbing leaks have been repaired within the facility. The inline water heaters have been installed. That's something I'll show you a little bit later. This will eliminate the shocking of the boilers with cold water causing excessive wear and tear on our boilers. Our boilers are about 500 gallons each. We have 2 there, and we've been constantly working on keeping those up and going, while reducing all the boilers being broken down due to breakage and things of that nature. Plumbing leaks still exist, and they will continue to exist due to the galvanic reactions that we are having within our plumbing system throughout this facility. That's just based on the age of the facility and what they've used to connect pipes, which we know there's copper pipes throughout, and they used a metal clamp, if you will, to hold them in place, and that is causing this galvanic reaction. This is and will be an ongoing battle for us. And that's, again, just due to the plumbing system that's in this facility. Our maintenance staff is addressing these issues as they come up, and they have been doing an awesome job at mitigating a lot of the damage that we've seen in the past because we didn't have enough plumbers to handle it, but we have one assigned there right now. The pictures that you're seeing are the inline water heaters that we put in. We put in 8 for each boiler, and what this basically does is preheats the water before it shocks the boiler and to start heating up 500 gallons worth of water. So this has already shown that it is working, and we are hopeful that it continues to do the job that we know it will do. So we're really proud of that. This is a picture I've shown you before of the galvanic reaction that's going on within this facility with all the different piping. And you can see in the top center to the right, that is the metal clamp I'm talking about that they use in construction and putting this facility together on top of the copper pipe. So that is what's causing that reaction. The facade, which we've all been concerned about, portions of the brick facade are failing. Compromised sections result in significant water intrusion issues and pose a threat to the lower roofs and the rooftop equipment that we have there at the jail. SLAM has developed construction documents for the repair and stabilization of portions of the brick facade. Gilbane Building Company is currently pricing the scope and anticipates providing pricing to the city no later than 11/15 of this year. The city will evaluate the pricing and recommend the most economical way or option to council for your approval. And with that, sir, we'll open it up to questions.
Mayor and council, we just wanted to give you just those highlights of some of the things that are going on in terms of preventive life, health, safety, and we are basically trying to bridge our way to the new or renovated jail decision that you all will make. We will be coming back to you very soon for further discussion on the new jail, if you will. And so just look to hear from us very soon for that discussion. And so we're happy to answer any questions on the jail maintenance that has been presented today, Mayor.
Councilor Hickey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't have any questions for the presentation, but I did have a question about what I wanted. I had requested for Mr. Scott to be here today, so apparently he has something going on that he's not here. But if someone can just come forward and answer my questions dealing with Bull Creek Bait and Tackle down on Victory Drive. I just have some questions about that.
Lisa, do you want to? Go ahead with your questions.
Okay. I met with, I got a call maybe about 2 weeks ago from Mr. and Mrs. Williams of Bull Creek Bait and Tackle, and they were concerned about the issue of their lease not being renewed. And of course, when they said that they tried to reach out to someone at the city and they couldn't get anyone to respond to them. So from that point, you know, I started looking into it, and also I had asked them for a copy of the lease agreements that they have had in the past. And they received one letter from Mr. Scott saying that that they were going to have to be out of the property, off of the property by December 31st of 24. This, you know, Mr. and Mrs. Williams are elderly couples. This is their livelihood. This bait and tackle shop has been there for over 30 years, and it really provides a significant service to the residents and the fishermen that like to come and dock in their boats down there at this location. And so when they couldn't get a response as far as, you know, by them having to be out by the 31st of December of this year, they were concerned where they would relocate and things like that. So I got to asking some questions about it, and they received another letter from Mr. Scott saying that the current lease on the property is set to expire on December the 31st, 2024. We're pleased to inform you that the city is interested in extending the lease through July 31st, 2025 with a 2 one-year renewal option. Please note that this extension is subject to council approval. My concern there with with this adjustment is that in the previous years, since 2000, and I think it goes all the way back to 1999, rather, that they've had 3 leases that they've done with the city, and each of those was for 5 years. And I was just wondering if it's possible that the council can amend what was sent out to them with this new proposal of 2 one-year renewal options for them to stay there at this location. And so I was hoping that we could amend that, you know, to maybe let it go for another 5 years as we've done in all the previous years.
Well, let me just say what I know, and then I'll yield to Deputy City Manager Hodge regarding the lease. And I was around when that first lease was done. I was Deputy City Manager, and I did that lease with them. So I'm very familiar with the Williams and with the lease. So it's my understanding that there were some concerns from the Williams, whether they would be able to continue on. And so I think that was going to leave Parks and Rec in a dilemma and as to, well, what are we going to do with the facility? At some point, I think the Williams decided or determined that they could go forward. And so, which was a relief to Parks and Rec, because they want someone to be able to do it, but they thought if they couldn't continue, that they were going to either have to do an RFP or try and do it in-house themselves, is what was explained to me. And so I don't know if it has to do with their age or, I don't know the situation why they felt they would not possibly be able to continue it forward. And so, and I don't, maybe you all can respond to why it's not 5 years and it's 2 years, but let me just say, they've been good tenants. And when we have tenants on properties like that, when we do a lease, typically it's for a term. You know, it's for a single term, renewable for 2 or 3 terms, and then you do another RFP. And so whether it's the bike shop thing out across from the Peachtree Mall, where you do an RFP, you know, whether it's a bank contract with a bank that, you know, typically it's not a lifetime agreement. It's renewable for a term and then multiple terms, and then you do another RFP. But they've been good tenants, and I don't know that no one has responded to an RFP, but I'll let you kind of pick it up from there.
Yes, sir. So there has not been an RFP. This original lease, I think, was done in 1999, and at that time it was a 15-year lease. And then it was extended, and it was extended again, and the last extension took them through May of 2024. And so that was at the time when our understanding, Parks and Rec is the owner department of the facility and the park. Community Reinvestment handles the lease. So there's coordination between Parks and Rec and the Community Reinvestment Department as far as what does Parks and Rec want to do with that facility? Do they want to renew the lease? Do they want to do a new RFP? Do they want to take it in-house? And so there was communication between Community Reinvestment and Parks and Rec. Our understanding in Community Reinvestment was that the tenants were not interested in staying. So we extended that lease that expired in May through December, and that came to council for approval. And so we extended them through December. Since that time, they have expressed interest that they want to stay and continue the lease. Our understanding was 2 to 3 years, which is the reason for the term that was sent in the letter, was we would do 1 year with 2 one-year renewals. We have no issue with doing 1 year with 4 one-year renewals, but that was based on a conversation that we had with the Williams. Was their intention was to just stay a few more years. So there's no issue with doing a 1 year with 4 one-year renewals.
Yeah, so, and I don't know their situation, but we don't have a tenant or anyone else saying, you know, I'd like to compete for an RFP, so in fairness, you shouldn't give that to them for life. And sometimes we get those challenges. You know, this is not a lifetime lease. And, you know, but there's been no one come forward to say, you know, I want to do I want to improve, and I want, you know, whatever they have in mind. And so that's why the Williams have been able to stay so long.
Well, when I spoke with them, they were more concerned about extending it for another 5 years. And they just felt compelled to enter into what was presented to them for the 2 one-year option, you know, because they didn't, you know, they said that they want to stay there and continue to run and operate the business.
Yeah, well, and I will say, I think, you know, I don't know what you've presented, 2, 3 years, but if it's 2, 3 years or 1 year with 4-year options, we can do that. But I'm just saying to you that we need to be careful about giving the appearance that this is a lifetime lease. And so, but no one else is interested that I know of at this time. Of course, we haven't put it out for an RFP to see, but we could put it out for an RFP when it expires, and someone could say, oh, I want that, and an RFP tell us what they are willing to do. I'm willing to open and sell this and do this, and we have not put them through that. And so that was one reason I really didn't want to be discussing.
Okay. So if we could possibly look into that, you know, extending it for another 5 years for them.
We're happy to take a look, and then we can come back. Well, does it require council approval?
Yes.
Then we can bring it back to you.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the other question I had about the location, when I read the lease, there was some mention about a quitclaim deed was supposed to be done with the city. I know the first lease said that after the first 15 years
right.
that y'all will own the building.
That's right.
Right. So,
Yeah.
so no quitclaim deed was necessary in that. Because it's my understanding that they had, you know, built the building there. Now, I stand corrected on that if I'm wrong.
I'd have to go back and see, but we did do 15 years to allow them to earn or benefit from what they invested.
Okay.
Because, I mean, the building was already there.
Okay.
And so I don't remember the details of that, but we can certainly go back and take a look.
Okay.
And there again, if we go back and take a look, we're going to make sure that we follow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Understand.
Yeah.
All right, Councilor Davis.
For clarification, and I know the answer to this, but who owns the property?
The city owns the property,
Who owns the building?
the city.
So it's totally clear, city owns all the property, including the building and structures on that property.
Yes, part of the original lease agreement that was done for 15 years provided that they make an investment in that facility, but it would be a city facility. And that lease had expired. We've actually done another renewal of that lease. So yes, it's city property, city-owned.
And one additional question, have they made over the course of time a considerable investment in that property?
Not to my understanding. I'd have to verify that. I know they made an initial investment back in the late 90s, but there has not been any additional improvements.
Since that time, to my knowledge.
Since that time.
Thank you.
Councilor Thomas.
City Manager or Ms. Hodge, has anybody been out there to talk to them?
Yes, ma'am. I think Deputy City Manager Lisa Goodwin has spoke with them, Director Scott has spoken with them, the Assistant Director of Parks and Rec has
Yeah.
spoke with them. So they've communicated with several city employees.
I just know sometimes when you get a letter or something, it's not as comprehensive or as understandable
Yeah.
as if you have somebody sitting down talking with you one-on-one. And if we have not done that, that needs to be done.
Yes. Yes,
Somebody
ma'am.
needs to go out there.
Yeah, and that's my understanding, that a number of employees have had conversation. And I think the only reason that Parks and Rec was moving in that direction is that the initial understanding was that they didn't think they were going to be able to continue.
Okay.
And that's why they were panicking, trying to figure out, what are we going to do with this building? Do we operate in-house? Do we do an RFP? And so it started from that.
Mr. Mayor, if you don't have anybody else, I do have a question on another subject.
All right, we've got Councilor Hickey, I think, to this.
I just got one other question, Mr. Mayor. Thank you very much. Mr. City Manager, can you ask Mr. Scott to give the council a update on Caper?
On what now?
On Caper.
On the Caper.
Yeah.
Okay.
And possibly if, for the next council meeting, if you can do that.
Well, let us do it in December. That's a night meeting, and yeah, I'd rather do it during the day meeting,
During
so
day
we'll
meeting.
be here all night.
Okay, all right. I appreciate it. That's
Yeah,
great.
Councilor Thomas.
Mr. City Manager, can you give us an update on the negotiations with PAWS for
Well-
the Animal Control Center?
Well, let me just say that we've gotten off to a good start, both teams. Paul's was due to have a proposal to the team on Friday, November 8th. And so I'll find out today if they got that proposal in, and then we'll go from there.
So we are continuing to meet and to
Yes.
talk about this.
Yes.
If you would keep us updated, I would appreciate it.
Sure.
Thank you.
Councilor Kogel?
I was wondering, Mr. City Manager, if you could give us just a recap, and I know that it's been brought up several times, but just for our constituents' sake, as well as just a refresher for council on yard pickup, because fall is here and I'm getting a lot of concerns about what people do with their yard waste since it is exceeding their green can, and apparently we can't purchase second green cans. So there's some concern on that, and I was wondering if you could clarify.
Yeah, and I'll have Director Short, but let me just say, there's, citizens have been issued one green can. And because the yard waste is not an automated pickup at this point, they can continue to bag, beyond the green can capacity, because that is the one truck that we still have inmates on the back of, and you can come around, but.
And do they need to schedule a 311 for that pickup?
No, ma'am, not
Okay.
for your standard bagged yard waste.
Okay.
Your bulk yard waste, that's your limbs, your hedges, or whatever you do.
Okay.
But bagged yard waste, you do not. And if you don't mind, I'd like to also include that everyone's been calling about their old trash cans. You can use your old trash cans to bag those leaves or the grass to be picked up by waste collection. It's picked up by a rear loader, which is the old trucks we used to use and still use with the inmates on the back.
And they can do that only because we have inmates on the back of trucks that do the yard waste.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Okay, and then on the topic of trash, is there a delay in the second trash can for if people want to purchase the second trash can? Is there a delay in that delivery?
For the household?
Like if Councilor Crabb wants a second trash can,
A
is
brown
there
can cart.
a
Yes,
brown
we
can?
just got our brown carts in, so we will be delivering, I think we had like 300 on the list that we'll be delivering for the rest of the weekend until those are done.
Okay, and then
We just
will-
got 1,400 in.
And then will we have those in in stock then in order, if people are requesting? Or is there still a delay on?
Shouldn't be a delay.
Okay.
This should take care of everything that we have in the system right now. We will still continue to purchase as we need to replenish our inventory.
Okay, but do we have extra inventory on top of what we?
As of right now, we do.
Okay, all right, great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Mayor, if there are no other questions. That concludes my agenda.
Okay. Madam Clerk?
Good morning, Mr. Mayor, members of council. For the clerk's agenda, item 1 is a resolution changing the meeting time for the November 19th council meeting.
All right, there's a motion and a second to change the meeting time. Any discussion? All right, I guess we can put that up on the screen and allow council to vote on that. Anybody over there?
Yes. I did just want to state for the record that upon approval of this resolution, the council meeting time would change from 5:30 p.m. to 4:30 p.m.
Okay. Doesn't seem like,
think we're
there it
gonna
goes. It's put on the screen.
take a
Council,
voice.
please vote. It's coming.
Oh.
Okay, councilors, please vote. Councilor Crabb, you vote in favor? Might have. All right, well, that is passed.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Item number 2 is a travel authorization request for Councilor Chambers to attend the 2025 newly elected officials training.
Motion second to approve. Any discussion? All right, put it on the screen. Councilors, please vote.
What score is he required to have on his exam?
We are, huh? I tell you, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, that is approved.
And so Councilor Tucker is voting in favor as well. Item number 3 is a letter from the Muskogee County Democratic Committee Chair advising of the recommendation to reappoint Ms. Linda Parker for another term on the Board of Elections.
All right, there's a motion second to approve. All in favor?
I'm sorry, who made the second?
Councilor
Thank
Crabb,
you.
I believe.
Thank you.
All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, that's approved.
Item number 4, this is an honorary designation application submitted by Nashandra Brooks requesting street signage at the intersection of St. Mary's Road and Longwood Lane in honor of Angela Tansey. The council may vote to send this to the Board of Honor if that is your desire to do so.
Motion second to forward to the Board of Honor. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Any opposed say no.
And Councilor
Okay.
Tucker is voting in favor as well. Item number 5 are minutes of various boards to be received.
Motion and a second by Councilor Crabb to receive the minutes. Any that anyone would like have pulled from these? All right, all in favor say aye. Any opposed? They are received.
Next, we have board appointments. We have the Animal Control Advisory Board. Mr. Matthew Gilbert was nominated to fill the unexpired term of Ms. Nancy Anderson. And
All right, motion second to confirm Mr. Gilbert. All in favor say aye. Aye. Is there anybody opposed?
Councilor Tucker is voting in favor as well. Another appointment for the Animal Control.
All right, motion second to confirm Ms. Boyce. All in
Yes.
favor say aye. Aye. Are there any opposed? All right, she's confirmed.
Thank you. Next, we have council nominations. 3 nominees are sent to the authority for selection, we have the Hospital Authority of Columbus, and we are relisting the 3 seats, Ernest Smallman IV, Mike Welch, and John Kingsbury. The authority did determine, in accordance with their bylaws, that Mr. Welch is not eligible to serve another term, and also we did have a withdrawal for consideration, and so we would want the council to submit 3 nominees again for these seats. Thank you, Councilor Koval, and we'll have those listed along with any other nominations, any other nominees. Next, we have the Medical Center Hospital Authority of Columbus. This would be the same in that the council submits 3 nominees for each of the seats. We have Mr. Max Brabson, he's eligible to serve another term, as well as Mike Burns. We have the seat of Mr. Frederick McKnight, who recently passed away, and this seat is vacant. Councilor Thomas is making the following nominations for the seat of Max Brabson. It would be Max Brabson, Travis Wade, and Tracy L. Sayers. For the seat of Mike Burns, we have Mike Burns, Travis Wade, and Tracy Sayers. For the vacant seat, we also have Alan McMullen, Travis Wade, and Tracy L. Sayers. If there are no objections, the council may vote to forward these nominees to the board, to the Medical Center Hospital Authority.
Motion and a second to forward those listed nominees. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Are there any opposed?
And Councilor Tucker is voting in the affirmative. Next, we have council appointments. Any nominations would be listed for the next meeting. We have the Commission on International Relations and Cultural Liaison Encounters. We have the seat of John Jackson, who's no longer serving on that board. Councilor Tucker is nominating Mary Catherine McCray to fill this unexpired term, and we will bring this back for confirmation at the November 19th meeting. For the Personnel Review Board, we have the seat of Dennis Walsh. This is an alternate member seat. He's not eligible to serve another term. We also have the seat of Mr. Willie L. Belfield, Jr. He's eligible to succeed himself. The HR department is requesting that he be moved to the regular member seat, the seat that's currently held by Torrance Goodwin. And so if a member of council wanted to place his name in nomination for that. Councilor Crabb has placed his name in nomination to move to a regular member seat. We also have the seat of Donna Baker. This is an alternate member 3 seat. She's eligible to serve another term if a member of council wanted to place her in nomination, as well as Tracy Walker. She's a regular member. Councilor Crabb is placing those 2 in nominations, and we'll bring these back for confirmation. And as I mentioned, Torrance Goodwin, he's not eligible to serve another term, and the council has nominated Willie Belfield Jr. to succeed. And that's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
All right. Well, we will go into executive session in a few moments, but first we had Ms. Elamine, who had requested an additional 3 minutes on her time on the public agenda. So Ms. Elamine, please come on up.
Congratulations, Mr. Mayor and Mr. City Manager, on an efficiently run, beautiful meeting. I have learned so much about how beautiful this city is going to be. However, it's being made beautiful on the backs of the poor. Every city I've lived in, when local option sales taxes come up, the community is organized to vote against it because it's the regressive tax. And poor people are disproportionately burdened by it. So when you are building all these beautiful things with sales taxes, poor people are paying for that. But do poor people get anything out of it? No, because nothing is being done about poverty. Do you hear me, number 3? Do you hear me, number 7, wherever you are? Nothing is being done about poverty in your areas because reducing child poverty is an imperative. There's a book, $70 book. Some of you may have it. Sheriff has it. Mr. House bought it. I have it. How to reduce child poverty by 50% over 10 years. That 10-year plan, 2025, it's done nothing. The chamber didn't even mention poverty in the initial plan, and I forced them to bring up poverty, but have they done anything? No, no. You must do something about all this poverty. The event tonight, where Mr. Hickey, you still speaking, right? Okay, well, Deputy Clerk, if you could do me a favor, one for the clerk's office and one for Mr. Hickey. I emailed most of you the arrests of students, hundreds of students in the prison pipeline. They're probably poor students who don't have the proper parenting. They're in the prison pipeline right now, hundreds. So, Mr. Number 1, look over that before tonight so that you can be prepared, because we're going to give everybody a copy of that who shows up for the meeting tonight. I'll speak at the school board at 5 o'clock to make sure everybody knows education, not incarceration. Poor children in the prison pipeline right now, by the hundreds. So I'm expecting a little bit better from you. And I do want to say to number 5, I see how hard you're working. Congratulations. Thank you so much for doing a great job. I hear you. Good night.
Good night.
Good day.
Yes, ma'am.
But I'll be back on the 19th, 4:30.
We look forward to it.
4:30.
All right, well, our list of executive session topic has been expanded a little bit. I think, Mr. City Attorney, if you would, I know one is potential litigation.
Litigation, we've had added requests for personnel and real estate acquisition and disposal.
Okay, so I need a motion to go into executive session. Motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? All right. All right, we have been in executive session. We discussed litigation, personnel, and property acquisition and disposal. There were no votes taken during the executive session. Mr. City Attorney.
All right, thank you, Mayor. Pursuant to discussion with the risk manager, we've distributed around the table a resolution. This resolution would settle all claims of Roberto Aaron stemming from an accident on February 3rd, 2022 for $282,500. It's ready for adoption.
There's a motion and a second to approve. Any discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Are there any opposed? All right, that's approved. All right. Any further business that needs to come before the council? Motion second to adjourn. All in favor say aye. All right, we adjourned.